When compared to the fourth quartet, bright on the surface but presented through a heavy cloak, the 13th quartet is clearly from an entirely different place. It was composed between 1969 to 1970, some 20 years after the fourth quartet. You can immediately sense that this is music of an entirely different time. At the time of composition, Shostakovich was being treated for numerous ongoing health issues. He'd spent approximately 6 months in hospital that year and had developed a preoccupation with death. The quartet itself is dark, desolate. It's presented without any camouflage. It's as if Shostakovich had no fear in presenting these instruments in their sparseness and bleakness. There's no attempt to resolve the dissonances. There's certainly no attempt to include rousing folk tunes. It seems to me that this was composed by the Shostakovich who had faced death, first at the hands of Stalin and now in illness, and now he was staring back. Each of Shostakovich's late string quartets were dedicated to people that were very special to Shostakovich. The 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th quartets were dedicated to the original founding members of the Beethoven String Quartet. This was the ensemble that had premiered all but the first of Shostakovich's string quartets to that point. The 13th was offered to the ensemble's original violist, Vadim Borisovsky, as a sort of belated 70th birthday present. As in each of the quartets dedicated to the Beethovens, the dedicatee's instrument is featured, and this tradition is continued in the 13th, opening with an expansive viola solo. But whilst this tradition is kept, Shostakovich breaks from others. His use of form, for one, marks a clear step away from traditional models. The entire quartet, of about 20 minutes duration, is presented as a single, unbroken movement. There are, however, 3 sections. The opening section, slow, twice as fast, and then returning at the end to the original tempo. Gives the work an almost palindromic formation. And there are other techniques too that Shostakovich uses to give the work a greater sense of unity. He uses a compositional technique called 12-tone composition. This was devised by Arnold Schoenberg in the early 20th century. So in other words, Shostakovich takes the standard musical scale, those 12 notes, treats them with more or less equal importance. So this is how Shostakovich opens the quartet, with a viola solo playing 12 notes in a certain order. For all of its desolateness, I hope you'll agree that this is also incredibly rich music. It doesn't always necessarily sound austere or angular, at least in the opening, because Shostakovich takes the first 4 notes and presents a chord followed by a sort of sigh, and then another 4 notes followed by another sigh. In this first section, the hymn motif from the 4th quartet returns. However, this time it's no longer in those comparatively lush surroundings. Here it's dark, bleak. With each appearance it becomes even darker. Towards the end of the work, in agreement with this arch-like structure, the opening material returns. This time the instruments are muted. At the very end, the opening viola comes back, and the quartet ends with a rather lifelike, disturbing shriek. Put quite simply, the 13th quartet is one of Shostakovich's most desolate works.